The world is not waiting for us to wake up to our power.
Code Keepers, we're back. This is episode 3 of Generational Flip. Hey, look, in this one, we're talking more about power than we did in the earlier episodes. But there is an interesting point where power and resources, i.e. wealth, i.e. money, connect. And we're going to dive a little bit. But this is a primer, like 101, Power 101. Stay tuned.
Wow.
We are hustling backwards.
We are hustling backwards.
In a country that we did not build by law. We built it physically. Mm-hmm. So we think we know how it operates because we laid the brick down. But we weren't in the room when they was making the rules for how the bricks would be used or laid.
Correctly. You're correct. And I think that's the other thing is that that part that we missed is the rules. And so at this point, how do we impact the next generation so that they understand the rules that the generations before them missed?
To be black and beautiful means nothing in this world unless you are black and powerful. We cannot be black and proud and niggas too. What will our children's children be saying about us 150 years from now? Will they be saying what was reported on the front pages of USA Today not long ago? I hope you saw this article. It was below the fold. And here's what it said. That African-American baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America to raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them. So in the 400-year history of our people in this country, we are the only generation to raise another generation that will be worse off. We need our behinds kicked.
That's some good stuff. That's nice.
Well, today we're going to actually be talking about how you can create wealth and that there are biblical principles to back up certain wealth concepts that we have heard about today. There's 127 scriptures in the Bible that talks about how we can create wealth and generate wealth. So it's just not having wealth for today, but it also teaches us and show us how to have that generational wealth that will pass down to the next generation. And that's what I'm here to actually talk to you about today. Share some of those scriptures and share some of those concepts with you. And hopefully once you're able to apply these concepts to your life, you yourself now will see the principle working for you and seeing wealth grow, not only just now, but for generations to follow.
In order for us to be able to lessen this 250-year racial wealth gap, we have to be able to come together. And that's where I have the term financial agriculture, because I'm a big fan of gardening. So you cannot keep putting the same crops in the soil over and over again. You can't keep planting carrots in the same spot over and over. To actually have successful agriculture, you're supposed to rotate the crops every season. So once you plant carrots there, you then plant string beans there the next time. Then the next time you plant something else. And you keep a rotation of 3 crops that you overturn every year because certain crops take certain nutrients from the soil. So you have to be able to replenish it back into the soil. So Black people cannot just be crabs in a barrel and focus on just ourselves, or operating as a monolith focused on one particular perspective and viewpoint. We have to be able to rotate the viewpoints, rotate the communities, rotate the industries and the races that we are working with so that we can produce better crops and fruits of our labor.
Code Keepers, we're in for a joint today. We're here with Majora Carter. She's a real estate developer, so you know that's part of my heart. She's an urban revitalization strategy consultant. What's that mean? We'll figure that out. And she's an author. And she's a New Yorker. You know, I'm a big-time Brooklyn boy, and she's from the South Bronx, the South Bronx.
So the reason why I'm in the South Bronx to begin with is because my dad, who was a Pullman porter, you know, on one of his trips out west, he went to be at a racetrack in Los Angeles, won $15,000 in the late 1940s, came back to New York because he was living in Harlem at the time, and he ended up plunking down that $15,000 to buy the house that I grew up in for cash, and in part because, you know, that at that point, you know, big old black men were not getting, you know, they weren't able to finance houses. So of course he had to, because of all the racism associated with giving black folks money, or not even loaning them money. So he had to buy it for cash. And so he wanted the house here in this neighborhood specifically because there was this old rail station there that was allegedly supposed to be reopened and reactivated for rail service. And he was a Pullman porter. So he was just like, oh, that's where I want to live. If I can find a house there, that's where I'm going to go. So that's where he went. And now his daughter, his youngest child, owns that station and is transforming it into an event hall that I am convinced is going to be like the next major place as a music venue in New York City. But basically, like, that's my vision for that.
Ashe. Mm-hmm. And hey, we thank the elevated ancestry, particularly your father, for making that seed. Yep. It's amazing. It's amazing what
I know, right? Crazy.
Look in Matthew's, the 25th chapter, and it was talking about how the master was leaving to go out of town, and he gave his servants according to what they were worth. So one of his servants, he gave 5 talents. Another servant, he gave 2 talents. And the last servant, he gave 1 talent. But those talents that he was talking about was value of money. So that was money that he gave unto them. So the one he gave 5, he took it out and he worked hard and he doubled it, and he came back and so when the master came back, the one who he gave 5, he was like, hey, master, look, I was able to use your money wisely and I was able to grow it from 5 to 10. The one he gave 2 was like, master, I was able to also work hard, use your money wisely, and in return, I came back and doubled it, and now I have 4. But the one who was foolish, he had 1 talent. He said, hey, I'm scared. So he had no faith. So he went and he buried the money instead of putting it somewhere to earn interest. He buried it in the ground because he was like, well, master, I thought I was being wise because I took what I had and I buried it versus taking a chance. And he says, ye a little faith. So that goes to show that you don't have faith when you do not take your money and put it into those accounts to earn interest. When you're scared thinking that something is going to happen, God says, who are you trusting in? Because I'm the one that has created the money system.
Well, the story of the talent.
The story of the talent that people don't understand about that is that Jesus is telling the story of the talents, about the investment talent, and you basically using what God gives you. But what people miss is the 1 talent, based upon the measurement of that time, would have been about the size of 75 pounds. How do you know how much effort it takes to dig a hole and bury something that's 75 pounds? The effort that you're expending to hide it is ridiculous. You're going to a ridiculous level of not using what you've been gifted versus taking that effort. Just say it'd be easier just to lend it out and gain interest than to go through the ridiculous effort of trying to bury something that large. And so that's really what the lesson is. The lesson is that, that we will people will go to tremendous lengths that are ridiculous to hide something that's been graciously given to you. Yeah.
two of my books, History of the Black Dollar and Black Woman Politics, that's why I wrote them. Because I wanted to go back to, with History of the Black Dollar, we went back to the very first slave that entered America, the very first dollar that ever touched a slave's hand. And I wanted to understand what happened during our relationship with money over the years that led us to the place in the relationship that we have now with money. And then from a Black woman perspective, I wanted to understand our relationship with power. So I went back to the very first speech ever done by a Black woman with Sojourner Truth. And that speech could be given today. And many of the things, I learned two things by going back and tracing Black women politics. Number one, Black women have been asking for the same thing over and over for the past 200 years. Just a different head and mouth, but it's been the same words. Yes. And number two, what is not presented in our American history books is that many of the pivotal moments of American history was kicked off and sparked by a Black woman's speech that we would not have if it was not for a Black woman risking her political position to go out on a stage or go out on Capitol Hill and really express what was needed for change. And almost every single time she was denounced and ridiculed, called crazy, and then they would go back into their rooms and come up with a plan that was the exact thing that the woman was asking for, just under a different name. And it would be rebranded and the country would shift. So every time, not just with this last administration, but since the beginning, it has been Black women stepping up and announcing what the next step for the country needs to be, especially when it comes to economics.
Wow. Courage and color.
Building and the architecture, I mean, it really is kind of a fabulous place because it was...
Tell us about it.
Sure. So the building was designed by Cass Gilbert, who is actually America's first superstar architect back in the early 1900s. And he did the Woolworth Building, the U.S. Supreme Court Building. He also did these little, these little rail stations all over the Bronx. So this is one of them. So we acquired this about a few years ago, and we're transforming it into an event hall. Thank you. Watch your step. Yeah, watch your step.
Thank you so much.
Oh, this is Eve.
Hi, Eve. I'm Rhonda.
We used to work together back at the Boogie Down Grind. Now he's managing another coffee shop, which we're super proud of.
So this is the joint,
Yes.
right? This is the old El Coche bar. We didn't touch it.
So we're really thinking about it. I mean, my dream is that it becomes like the prime spot for new music to be showcased. That's my dream. But you can also have weddings and quinceañeras and sweet 16s here and anything like that. Yeah. So as a project-based developer, because in my first career in community development, I worked as an environmental justice activist. And even back then, I knew that if we didn't change what people saw in their communities, it would be really difficult for them to even fight for environmental equality in our communities. Because if there's nothing in a community to make you want to care about it, you won't. And that's why we tend to measure success by how far we get away from our communities. And many of us are not trying to re-engage and stay in our neighborhoods. So we decided that if we were going to do that, we needed to create reasons for people to want to stay.
From high school, I was in a group, and then I started producing. Grammy-nominated producer. I produced Music Soul Child. I don't know if you remember Music Soul Child. Yeah, I produced Music Soul Child, got nominated for a Grammy from that album, and produced a number of other people. Discovered A. Marie. We both went to Georgetown together, so I founded a production company. We just started producing for other artists. We made some good money at it, but what happened was we made the conscious choice to, when we got our label deal, we had a label deal with Sony Music at the time, and our company made the conscious choice to put all of our resources in one artist. And that's what we did for about a 2-year stretch. And that one artist basically got dropped right when we were ready to come out, right? So it forced me to really make some changes in my life.
The book of Ecclesiastes was penned by Solomon. And this is what he says in Ecclesiastes 11:2. He says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. And so this is a prime scripture that talks about diversification. You can't put all of your eggs in one basket. Because if something happens to that basket, then you don't get an omelet. And so we think about diversification. That has applications across the board. One of the things that a lot of the young people, I'm so proud today of some of our young people, because they're getting this economic information early. And so they're learning about multiple streams of income at an early age, and they're not limiting themselves to just going to a job and drawing a paycheck. And so that in itself is a tremendous source of wisdom, and so not only is that diversification in terms of what's income coming in, but also diversifying your talents in terms of what you do. So in terms of following your dreams, whether you want to write, whether you want to own a rental property, whether you want to invest, but this idea of not limiting yourself to one thing, but having a means of having wealth come in. I forget where I was reading it, but it was talking about Jewish finance. And I believe in Jewish finance, basically they have, I think if I get it right, part of their money is invested, the other part is in real estate, and then there's a certain amount that's there's cash on hand. But they don't keep their money all in one place, but it's actually growing. And so that's the thing that you really have to kind of work on dealing with is diversifying. And so I would say that.
So you can literally convince your mind of anything. There is an experiment that they do with people where they put them inside of a glass box, and they pretend like they are in an elevator and the walls are slowly closing in on them. And the person's mind thinks that the walls is closing in on them and they're about to be squished to death. And 9 times out of 10, when they do this experiment on somebody, they end up passing out or nearly dying from anxiety because their mind has convinced them that they're about to die, even though it's not actually happening. In reality, they're just in a glass box. So your mind is a very important place. This lesson came back again as I started to make money. And once again, I'm at Prudential and I went to a store and I had like $4,000 in my account at the time. And my card got declined. And I was screaming. And to me, $4,000 was like $1 million at the time. Right. And I was like, it's no way my card got declined. I got $4,000 in the bank. And I was on the phone with my mother. And my mother said, first of all, Angel, $4,000 is not a lot of money. Second of all, you don't ever yell in public how much money is in your account. Third of all, I am about to put you through self-image training, because for my child to feel like $4,000 is a lot of money, I need to change your self-image, because you will never have more than $4,000 in your account. if that's what you actually believe is money. So she then completely had me read all these various different books and change my relationship with my personal self-image. Because if you don't see yourself as a millionaire or as a billionaire, you will never become one. If you don't see yourself having more than $100,000 in your account, if you don't see yourself being able to make $100,000 in one transaction deal, then you will never attain it. And it was that shift of my self-image that then started to allow myself to be able to see me in higher heights.
When we look at the world today, we will see that powerful nations and powerful people are producing people, not just consuming people. As I've often said in my many speeches around the world, you cannot consume yourself into equality, and you cannot consume yourself into power. And those people who depend upon consumption will see as they consume the products of others and do not produce for themselves will ultimately be consumed by others. Therefore, in the 21st century, we must become a community of owners and savers instead of a community of consumers and renters. We have it ass backwards. In America, two things are happening. Somebody is buying and somebody's selling. Right now, we're doing all the damn buying. Stop it. Sell something. If you bake cookies, put them in a box and sell it to somebody. If you live on a farm, take the manure, put it in a bag, put your name on it. You can become an entrepreneur, okay? Stop doing all the damn buying and sell something in this country. You can sell anything. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us?
I love it. Now, true or false? It takes money to make money.
False.
False. True. False.
False.
False. True and false. True.
It takes somebody's money. Listen, I take grant money, I take EBT money, I take all types of money. Money is money. The property is the bank. I need you to remember this.
I say, I like that.
All right? When it comes to real estate, the property itself is the bank in real estate investing. All right? So, what we teach is, one, OPM. Y'all know what that stands for. Okay? OPT.
Other people's time.
Other people's time. All right? And we use this from a HML. Hard money lender. You first starting out, you don't have the experience, right? So this is going to be your first investment, and most HMLs is going to give you 65% of the ARV. ARV stands for what?
After repair value.
After repair value. That is how much this bank is worth after it has been repaired. You got me? Yes. All right. So this is how this works. There's a property that's for sale for, let's say, $50,000. Okay? It's for sale for $50,000. Somebody she knows is trying to get rid of it. They can't keep it up. It needs a new roof. It needs new flooring. The house is tore up from the floor, from the window to the wall, and they want to sell it to you for $50,000. She's also is going to do what is called a CMA report. What is that, Hope? Let them know. Comparative market analysis, which is going to give you the ARV of this property that says this property, once fully renovated, is going to be worth $250,000. Now, currently, this bank is 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It's $50,000. What you think he's going to get? Come on, hey, we get there. All right, now, in order to turn this bank into $250,000, you need to turn it into a 4-bed, 2-bath, without adding on to the property.
Without adding on.
We do it all the time. All right, now, I need somebody to tell me what's 65% of $250,000. 162,500. 162,000 is 500. That's how much the HML is going to give you for this bank. You're going to subtract the $50,000 for the purchase price. That leaves you with $112,500 to do your renovations. $162,500. Now you're not going to get the money, right? How it works is they're going to pay off the $50,000, right? And then they're going to give you the rest of the money in draws as you do the repairs. Okay? On paper, we say it's going to cost us $112,500 to renovate this property. In all actuality, it costs us $65,000. So what do you do with the remainder of the money?
Pocket.
You don't pocket, you reinvest into the property. So it's going to cost me $65,000 to renovate this property. I'm going to take the surplus and I'm going to go ahead and get another property, and we're going to duplicate this process. And we're going to keep doing that process using other people's money, our contractors' time, all right? And we're going to keep doing that. Now, how much do you have to bring to the closing table? 1 to 4% of the total amount that you're going to loan. That's what you bring to the closing table. Okay? Now, I always work with OPM. Okay? I have a slew of investors that say, Dominic, we see what you're doing. We love what you're doing. I got $30,000 I want to invest. I don't have to use my money, right? You get 30% in 6 months. Okay, we use the Bird method. So what we do is, after we finish, we refinance the property. The bank now is going to give me 75% of the ARV. So I got an extra 10% in my pocket. I pay my investors back, and I keep redoing the process. Now, the investors are only investors, right? They're not partners. You understand? So how it works is the investors say, here is the money, and we provide the contract, right? They have their attorneys, whoever they want to look over the contract. They look at the contract. Hey, everything looks good. Here are the terms to the contract. And it does specify the money can only be used towards XYZ property. And if there is a delay and nothing is going on, there's terms to the contract, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about us selling this property. It's about us making sure the investors get their return. My time is up. But there we go.
Proverbs 13:11, wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished, but he that gathers by labor will increase. So if you want to attract money, it all depends on how you treat money. You disrespect money, money is going to run away. You respect money, money would then be attracted to you. But I know we hear all the time that we shouldn't worry about money, that the money is the root of all evil. But the only reason why that scripture was put in the Bible was not to say that he wanted us to be poor. He put that scripture in the Bible because he didn't want us to do whatever it takes to be wealthy. He wanted us to be honorable and have high integrity and work diligently with our hands and be wise with the money that we do create and make from the gift that he's given unto us, but not to go out there and be thieves or take from our neighbor.
Corporate America and life is much like Monopoly. You have to figure out the places and the people on the board. Once you understand the places and the people, it's all just a game. And you can make your own rules.
Wow. So it's not about teaching them
I have carried that with me.
Okay.
It's about knowing the places and the people. Just this week, I'm gonna give a very real example. Just this week, I've been at CBC all week. The rules are to wear a suit. I didn't know such a thing yesterday. I knew the places and the people. I knew where to be. I knew the absolute most top senior people in the room. And I walked in whatever I wanted to. I could care less about the rules of what I needed to wear. And once you get to that point, I could make my own rules of this is what I'm wearing. And now there will be other women behind me that can wear whatever they want to, because I've now gotten to a place of mastering the places and the people, therefore I can create my own rules. I hope everybody caught that.
I hope so too, because that's the gem. It is. We're not worried about your rules. Once we get to be able to deal with the places and the people.
Who gonna check me?
Others left and never came back. Why are you still here?
Because I realized that the reason why people leave and don't come back is because we believe this idea that if you want to be successful, you have to leave. That you have to move out of your neighborhood to live in a better one. And when I realized that there were conditions far beyond anything that we've created in order to make people feel that way, and that things happened here, systemic racism, 400 years, of creating entitlement programs for white folks that, people of color did not have. It was just clear to me that we should, at the very least, try to create the kind of changes that we wanted to see in our own community and sort of be a part of making the change we wanted to see in our own communities. I define the change as literally we're sitting in it. We've got, local economic developments that are locally owned, that create a sense of community and well-being, as well as economic, activity in a community that stays in this community.
Yeah, you the bomb. You the bomb. The Get On Code show is really focused on empowerment. So one of the questions I always ask is, how does this empower us? How does this mind shift empower not just me, us, the collective? So how can we have a mindset shift that will empower the collective?
So number one, I think that you have to be exposed to different things, because when you're exposed, exposure opens your mind up to what is possible. So I think the very first thing is you have to dream. You have to have a vision, and you have to be able to say, what is it that you really want? And then once you're seeing what it is that you really want, then you have to believe that it is possible for you. And so you really get out a sheet of paper, and this is your homework assignment. Get out a sheet of paper and draw 3 lines down the middle. And in the first column, I want you to write, where are you now? So you've got this vision, of what it is that you want. So you got this vision of what it is that you want. So write down, so let me change it. Write down, what is the vision of what you want? Who do you want to become? What do you want to achieve? Okay. And then on the last line, write, where are you now? And then in between is that gap. So what is it that you need to do to go from where you are now to where you want to be? And then once you understand what's in that gap, that's where that mindset shift comes. And so now you have to start getting the information to be able to say, I am no longer going to continue with these thoughts that don't serve me. They could be generational, thoughts that were passed down, but now you have to start doing the work of replacing them with new thoughts. So if you grew up thinking that money doesn't grow on trees and you've got to work hard for money, and that, rich people are evil, or just whatever you grew up with,
Now you have to start replacing those and inundating yourself with millionaire mindsets and how to, become financially free. And so that's where that work comes in, to just shift your mindset. So it's going to take work to replace limiting beliefs that no longer serve you with beliefs that do serve you and help you to get closer to reaching your goals.
I sat back and I watched Clubhouse. This is when I knew that this man knew exactly what he was talking about. Clubhouse came out at the very onset of the crisis, okay? App wasn't built, didn't have any users, didn't have no technology, had nothing. You know what it did have? It had 4 men coming together from Silicon Valley, putting their name on it. And it immediately got valued over $100 million. Just because these 4 men came together. So I realized right then and there that you don't have to go step by step. You don't have to climb a ladder. You don't have to sit back and go raise this or get this. You don't have to do any of that. You simply have to have the intelligence of knowing what you're doing, building the right team, bringing the right people together, and having the right idea. Master P gave a speech 2 days ago at the Icon Awards for the motion picture people. And he said, broke people think that you need money to be successful. Rich people know that you need ideas. Money is everywhere, but ideas are limited. So the currency is in the ideation of how you can actually be the change that you want to see, so that you can then actually make the change and make the money from it. And that is why we created Credit Rich, which rounds up users' spare change to pay their bills intelligently and optimize their credit score. Because you literally can use small change to make big change.
Good brother William, you were just sharing with us that there's a challenge you need to overcome. So say what you say.
So thank you. I was sharing with you that we were talking about a challenge earlier, and that how often it is that because our community has been kept out of ownership for so long, that when we get something that's ownership or that was close to ownership, we want to have 100% of it. We want to wrap our arms around it, and we want to do all the things and not share it because we finally have something. But the point I want to make is, oftentimes we wrap our hands around something, but it's symbolically a grape, when we could have just a slice of what could be a watermelon. And the point, and the thing to bring that home is, I've noticed, I've read many times that Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, only owns about 10% of the company. Now, he is the second richest person on the planet, and he only owns 10% of the company that he created. Now, imagine if he would have put his arms around it and said, nope, I'm not going to share, I'm not going to do anything, it's just going to be mine. I think he'd still be running a bookstore or online bookstore. But because he did the things to expand the business and to bring others along, he only owns 10% of the company, but he's the second richest person on the planet.
I believe that African Americans are at a pivotal point in history. The world is not waiting for us to wake up to our power. It is time for African Americans to take a seat at the table, not only in America, but also in the global economy. Unfortunately, we continue to place our power in the hands of those that have historically oppressed us, and even worse, we continue to oppress each other. This is the meaning of internalized oppression, to continue to fall into the cultural hypnosis of thinking that white America controls our lives is a true abdication of our personal power. The reality, brothers and sisters, is that each and every day is an opportunity to create a new and powerful story in our culture. And unless we find a way to write this new story and to claim our power, there will be devastating implications for our community and for the world. In other words, there is no one to save us but us. Wherever black people are going in the 21st century, it will be because black people will take them there.
We're at an interesting intersection of opportunity and preparation. I want those two roads to really merge well for us. Opportunity and preparation. So allow this content to prepare your mind for the opportunities that lay ahead of you. Once you know of some things, once you're aware of some things, once you've had some exposure to some things, new opportunities will come your way, and that's the generational flip that we're about. We're going to do things differently than earlier generations, so join us on this quest. Now, go out and flip something.